Hi, Matt Bazogna here again. Welcome to another edition of Gold Nuggets, number 11 this week. Time is passing. And this week I thought we'd look at the work that Dave Renham's done with the trainer profiles. He's done a 3-part series covering 12 trainers and various facets of their runners that have been profitable to follow. And what I want to do in this episode is to show you how you can do that for yourselves using the tools available inside Geegeez Gold. Okay, let's get to it. Alrighty, so what is trainer profiling? Well, let's first take a look at the third and concluding chapter of Dave's trilogy, which was published earlier this week. And in this article, there are links here and here to the previous two, so you can check that out for yourself. As an example of what Dave's done, here is his Rafe Beckett 3-year-old system. And I mean, it's really, really simple. Flat racing, Rafe Beckett, 3-year-old runners. There's no danger of backfitting here or any kind of atom splitting. This is just a point and shoot. Oh, it's trained by Rafe Beckett. Oh, it's a 3-year-old. Okay, let's go. Now, Dave does say personally he's a bit more selective than that, and I think that's, if you've got the time and the inclination, I think that's a more prudent approach. It's certainly going to smooth the curve a little bit in terms of losing runs and such like. But that's up to the individual. The whole point of profiling is that you find something that works for you, and it might be back everything, and it might be what I call a markup, that you know something that's generally a positive, and it's good to be aware of when you're considering a race overall. So that's kind of how I'm going to look at these profiles today, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples later on. Just to repeat those points there that Dave has made previously, beware the scourge of backfitting. Essentially, the more rules that you're adding, the more likely you are to be backfitting, and the more selective you are with ranges that are conveniently encompassing most of the profit, the more likely you are to be backfitting. Ways that you can avoid doing this are to do your research on a subset of the total data. So let's say, for example, we were looking at this Rafe Beckett one. Let me just do this so that I can show you what I'm talking about. So this is basically 2009 plus, runner age 3, and race type, race code, flat turf and all weather, and that's it. Now remember that Dave is I haven't added the trainer there, so that's going to fall over. Remember, Dave is dealing with Betfair SP here, and we're dealing with SP. This is the super set. I forgot to add the trainer, which is kind of important because it's a trainer angle. So let's put that right. Generate report. There we go. Right, now we can see that. And you can see that actually at starting price, this is not a profitable angle. But at Betfair starting price, this red number here, which in ROI terms is about 5% negative, becomes a fairly strong positive. Indeed, it's a 8.5% positive return. So Betfair SP, it clearly makes a significant difference, as does early price best odds guaranteed. So whatever you can avail of, either the BOG offers from your bookmaking portfolio, or Betfair SP, Exchange SP. So the way to avoid backfitting is, in this case, I have selected 2009 plus. So you can see in the date range, it's from the 1st of Jan 2009 up until today's date, which is Wednesday 13th of April 2022. Now what I can do is I can go into the year component, and I can select a subset of all of these years. So let's just say I've selected all the odd numbered years like that, and that's called a training set, if you like. It's basically we want to do the research on some of the data and see if it flies. And then if we think the angle is logical and it flies, it looks good, then we essentially reverse this and we look at the other years, or we look at the data set in totality. And if we still get a broadly similar output, then we're in a good place. So in this case, you can see on these years we've got kind of a 9% negative ROI, which is a lot less promising actually. And doing it this way, obviously I haven't got the benefit of the Betfair SPs here. I'd probably have been switched off the Beckett angle, and you can see if I had done the even years, I would have got a 1% negative ROI. So it can be a little bit of a challenge using the subsets, but it's very good discipline in terms of not being caught out by the backfitting trap. So that's something to think about in terms of not backfitting, and in terms of having confidence in the angles that you've come up with is very important. It's easy to get seduced by some sexy numbers up here and then start betting as a result. But really, what we need to do as soon as we see anything remotely like a sexy number up here is start asking some very serious questions, because this is history and the future is something different. History involves no outlay on our part. The future potentially involves fairly significant losses or gains. So we just have to manage that and be very careful. Okay, hopefully that makes some sort of sense, even if this wasn't perhaps the best example with which to share that bit of discipline. Right, I think we should just crack on now and have a look at some examples by way of showing you how to do this. And the tool I'm going to use is the Profiler tool. Now, Profiler is found in the race cards. Pick a race, any race, and within a race you will see a Profiler tab right here. And conveniently enough, actually, the guy I want to profile is this one, Paul Midgley, as my first example. So this is Midge. I'm sure nobody calls him that, but so Paul Midgley obviously has runners today, which makes it easy for me to find him as a trainer and to start doing the profiling on the data down here. But what if you want to look at a trainer who hasn't got a runner today? Well, the way to do that is to search for the trainer. Let's say Bin Saror. Maybe he did have a runner today, I don't know. So you find the trainer, and then what you would do, you see his next runner is on the 18th. Sorry, I should explain what I did there. So I've gone to the trainers tab here, and then next to his name there's a little blue arrow icon, and if you click on that, it will show you that trainer's entries. I'm sure you knew this. And then clicking on any of these entries will take you to the race in question. And you can see this is a 5-day declaration, so a lot of these don't yet have a jockey, but that's no matter. So again, what we're doing is we're going to the Profiler tab, and then we're looking for our trainer. There he is, Saeed Bin Saror, and we're selecting trainer here, and then we're good to go to do the rest of the stuff. So that's how you do it if you can't find the trainer in question. And actually, if let's say Saeed didn't have any runners upcoming, you could do it this way. So if you click the blue arrow and it's blank, you search in exactly the same way. Then you're going to click on the trainer name to bring up his full form, and then you just click on the most recent race. So I can do that, and from there it's going to bring up all the other tabs as well. You know, this is a historical race from December, but there is the Profiler tab here again, so I can access any trainer without an entry upcoming in this way. And there we are. So we've got Saeed Bin Saror's data again. doing it that way. Okay, so those are 3 ways that one way or another you'll be able to find the trainer or jockey or horse or sire that you're interested in profiling. We are going to introduce a profiler page, which has just got a search box at the top, and it just kind of finesses this process. But until we get to that point, which hopefully be a week or 2 from now, this is how you can do that. Okay, let's get back to Mr. Midgley. Here he is. And I have shared in a previous video, I can't remember if it was in Gold Nuggets or if it predates Gold Nuggets, but I've shared previously how almost exclusively Paul Midgley is a trainer of sprinters, but not even that. He is a trainer of 5 furlong sprinters, and you can see that. So what I've got here is I've got in the filters, I've just got the last 5 years, nothing else, and you can see that in the last 5 years, Midgley with horses running over 5 furlongs has an 11.5% strike rate on over 1,000 runners. One of the things about these really big samples, like 1,000 runners, is you don't need to worry too much about each way or PRB numbers. For all that they all show pretty much the same thing here. The 5.5 furlongs, be careful, because again with 6.5, these are tiny little sample sizes, so not really meaningful. The 6 furlong one obviously is, because it's nearly 500, and you can see that the difference between the win strike rate difference, win percent difference between 5 furlongs, which is 11.5%, and 6 furlongs, which is 8%, and indeed 7 furlongs, which is 4.5%, is remarkable. And then you can further see that Midgley barely has a runner beyond a mile, so you wouldn't, drawing no inferences from those there. So what I want to do is I want to look exclusively at Paul Midgley over 5 furlongs, where I know he does best, and I just want to compare that 11.5% with handicaps only, because I suspect that may be helpful. So if I just click the handicap filter up here, I can have another look, and you can see that it's slightly improved the win percent to nearer 12%, and you can see that there's still nearly 1,000 runners. So essentially nearly all of Midgley's runners are in handicaps, and about 2/3 of them are in 5 furlong handicaps. So that's a really good starting point, and my guess is that he's probably close to break even at Betfair starting price just with that angle, which is remarkable. So I'm going to keep, I want to keep handicap on, and I'm going to look at 5 furlong races exclusively. Now this is a 5 furlong race, conveniently enough, so I can click the distance option here. If this wasn't a 5 furlong race, let's say it was a 6 furlong race, what I can do is I can go to full form, and again, it's a little bit faffy, but I can go to full form, select trainer, go down to Midgley here, and then I can look in his race form section here for a 6 furlong race like this one, and I can select that race, open up the result, and go to the profiler there. So I totally concede that it's a bit faffy and suboptimal, but you can do it that way. Of course, the other way you can do it is using Query Tool, which is a good bit more straightforward. Right, so let's get this back. Trainer Midge. There he is. And we've got handicaps on 5 years, so we're all good there. And what I want to do is I just want to look for things that might be meaningful. I mean, it's kind of interesting. I think probably firmer ground is a factor. Looking at these numbers compared with, certainly the all-weather figures are not good. So I'd be inclined to select flat only rather than flat and all-weather. So we've got flat all-weather and flat and all-weather. So if I select this filter as well, we just get rid of those goings that relate to all-weather, and we can see we've still got 800 at this range, and we're getting up towards 12.5% hit rate now, and the ROI, the negative ROI at starting price, is coming down. So this is a reasonable and arguably logical thing to do. The strike rate is a little bit lower on soft ground, but not much. And actually, we shouldn't look at the profit figures, but clearly they are better. But generally speaking, I'm happy enough to look at turf in the round, look at all of it together at the 5 furlong distance. On class, there's not really much in it. I mean, you might argue that he does slightly better in lower grade. Certainly looking at the percentage of rivals beaten, but I want to use as few filters as possible. So I'm going to ignore that for now, I think. I definitely don't want to be looking at field size. That's I don't think that's material. I'm not too interested in headgear either. I think we actually probably need to add a no equipment line into headgear so we can compare the other ones with it. But we know the overall strike rate is about 12.5%, and we can see that these are knocking around 12%. So I'm not going to get hung up on that. Weight carried is quite interesting for sprint handicappers. I think because of the short distance of the race, those carrying more weight in these handicaps and therefore ostensibly the better horses in the race tend to do better, and we can see that kind of replicated here. So Midgley's runners who carry kind of north of 9 stone basically, and obviously these ranges are somewhat arbitrary in half stone brackets, so 9-1 upwards. That seems reasonable, and I'd be happy enough to include that. Now that's not something we can do with Profiler, so we need to go to Query Tool to do that. So what I'm going to do is here's one I prepared earlier, and I've got I'm just a bit ahead of myself here. So if we just go down here, field size not interested in, weight odds we're not interested in, layoff. I thought was quite interesting that runners in the last 2 weeks particularly have struck at a higher rate, and that that's kind of consistent with sprinters being fit. Midgley tends to run his quite a lot in high summer when they're good and fit. And maybe he's kind of working on their marks earlier in the season. I honestly don't know. That's speculation on my part, but it's certainly plausible. There are trainers that do that, and you can see that their results are quite cyclical against the calendar. We can definitely see here that when we look at months, in the months of June, July, and August, the double-digit strike rates here compared with nearly 10% in May and nearly 10% in September. So this kind of, if in fact, let's do this. If we put it on the, if we chart it, you'll see that there's kind of a nice curve to how that looks. Although the curve is very low, we need to work on the scaling on the left-hand side here. But you can see that it sort of gets better, and then it gets worse again, and then there's this little outlier for November where there's only a couple of runners. So that's fairly satisfactory. That's gratifying in terms of what we're trying to do here. So I think I would focus predominantly in the summer, in the high summer with these, and go with perhaps June, July, and August. You could make an argument that May to September is credible, and you might say kind of the middle of May to the middle of September, but again that sort of thing's up to the individual. Left-handed track seems to be a real thing in terms of strike rates, but I cannot for the life of me understand why that would be, why it would be a thing, and as a consequence I'm very happy to completely overlook that as a kind of a quirk of the data. Likewise, I don't think trainers favour a particular course profile. Horses very often do, but I don't think trainers do. So the profile and the general and specific configs I'm not too fussed for. I'm also not fussed for particular tracks. Jockeys, you might be interested in kind of trainer jockey combinations. I'm not in this context anyway. So the things that I do want to look at, as I mentioned, are the higher weights, a run in the last 14 days, and high summer. And what I'm going to do is I'm as you know, I've got that kind of half built into query tool here, so I'm just going to put these months back in here, and just generate the report, double check I've got. So weight from 9 stone, trainer, Midgley, flat turf, up to 5 furlong, so 5 furlong races only, handicaps in the summer. And this is grouped by year, and you can see that going back to 2009, you see the strike rate is pretty consistent. Only one year it dipped below 10%, and generally it's been knocking around the 13 to 15% mark. These are starting price returns, and you can see that in pretty much every year things have been at least close to parity. Now in 2016, that was a difficult year. Just 4 winners from 42 and a minus 18. I haven't looked at the BSP numbers on that, so that would be something to look into to see if it made it, slightly less painful. Likewise, in 2018, 10 from 61, the strike rate was good, but the ROI was less so. I think with most of these sort of point and shoot approaches, you are going to get a situation where some years are in the red, and it's up to the individual how your kind of appetite to that. Like, this would be fine for me. I just use a bank that was appropriate, and again, I'd be factoring in these runners in the context of the specific race I was looking at, rather than backing them all, regardless of the situation. So that's Midgley. Again, so what we've got here is we've got 5 furlong handicaps, 9 stone, and in the summer months. And for some people, this kind of summer months bit might be a bit convenient. 9 stone and up might be a bit convenient. And I'm not actually going to disagree with you. I think it's one of those where, different strokes for different folks. As I've said already, that the fewer the number of rules that you use, the better. But knowing that this is on a kind of a data set of 600 odd runners, it's a pretty robust sample size, and I would definitely be using this as a markup angle. Now, there are 2 ways that you can store these for future reference. The first is to use QT angles, and just be careful with this, because you do have a finite number of QT angles, so you don't want to be creating like 1,000 of these, because they're not going to show up on your report. I think the maximum is 200 that you can use, and clearly I've got 125, and I need to I need to go in and do some housekeeping on that. But I'm going to put Paul Midge. Actually, I don't need his first name. Midgley. 5 furlong markup, and add that as an angle. And then obviously these are in June, July and August only, and we're in April. So when the time comes, these will start appearing on my race card in the blue numbers. Let's see if we've got any blue numbers on here. Probably not, because it's a race from yesterday. We'll try today. Let's just quickly refresh that. I was doing this a couple of days ago. It's been a busy week. Where are we? Right. I'm pretty sure he had a runner in this sprint handicap. So you can see I've got a blue number here, and this is this is the place where my Midgley angle will show up under the query tool angles. It will be a 1, or maybe more than that, but at least a 1 for any qualifying runners from June to August. And the other way you could store your trainer profiles is with the tracker. So you'd search for your selection, in this case Midgley, go to trainers, P Midgley here, and then you could add to your list of trainers, which I've done here, and then over on your trainers list you could click add notes, and here is where you'd write the specifics of your angle. So 5 furlong handicaps, June to August, 9 stone plus, and update that. And then what you'll see is immediately in the trainers list I've got these Midgley runners. Now of course at this stage of the season they're not relevant to me, because let me just quickly refresh that so you can see the note again. They're not relevant to me because the note says 5 furlong handicaps June to August, and obviously at the time I'm recording this it's April. So what you'd get in your daily email, you'd get a mention of this, and you'd be able to just check the note in the email, because the email contains the runner and also the note associated with it, in this case 5 furlong handicaps June to August, 9 stone plus. So I would know immediately to eliminate, to not worry about this particular entry on the tracker because it's not yet relevant. But if it was July, I'm going to go and quickly check this horse to see if it's carrying the requisite weight and running in a handicap over 5 furlongs, and if it is, then I'm marking it up, and I want to play. So this is a way. This is the way I would advocate you do it more often than not, simply because slots in your query tool angles are precious and should be used relatively sparingly, whereas with the tracker you've got a bit more latitude to include a lot of horses, trainers and jockeys, and that's why we use these options here. So for instance, you can select all of your entries and remove them if that's what you want to do, so you can do your housekeeping there. But that's the second way to store your profiles, is using tracker. So that's Midge, and that's how I've researched him. Now the other one that I wanted to look at was Group 1 Johnny Murtagh. I wanted to use an Irish trainer example because I seemingly always use British trainer examples. And what I did, I actually went to Query Tool and I did some work looking at the number of the trainers that basically had enough runners to make this kind of research worthwhile. So you need a volume of runners. It's no use if a trainer has like 20 runners a year. You need to be super careful with the inferences that you're drawing because the sample size is too small, basically. But with Johnny, Group 1 Johnny, there were plenty, and I wanted to look at handicaps. There are a few guys there like Joseph O'Brien and others, but he almost has too many runners. So I settled on Johnny, and I started to look at the profiler here. You see I've got 5 years here. I've actually got flat handicap again, which means that I've taken out the all-weather years, months. And then as I was looking down here, I could see straight away that first of all, he has a very high strike rate with his handicappers, which is, actually really impressive to be striking. Let's see what it is on average. Where's the turf? A 15% hit rate with with handicappers, and profitable to follow blanket historically is remarkable. And obviously, gives us some scope to refine that without without going too far down that track. So I did think that his form on softer ground, even where he's got, like on heavy he's got 18%, but generally speaking, the softer ground is three winners, 4 winners, 4 winners, 8 winners. So I kind of felt that he's probably better on quicker turf. Again, I looked at the distance, and it seems like there's a pretty even distribution of strike rate throughout, percentage of rivals beaten as well, so nothing really there. I'm a bit apprehensive of class in Irish racing, because Irish races outside of Group 1, or kind of pattern races, so Group 1, 2, 3 and listed, they don't really have official class, and we do it based on race type and prize money, so it's fairly accurate, but it's not precise, so I'd be a little bit wary of that. Field size is not a factor for me in this kind of thing, nor to headgear. Weight I looked at previously, and again we can kind of see that the strike rate is better from those carrying more weight. So, but nothing is strikingly poor. So again, if it's not broken, don't fix it. We're trying to pull as few levers as possible with this. The layoff again, last 60 days is kind of a bit better than longer term, and that might be something that you want to look at. Last 60 days implies a degree of fitness, for all that my own feeling is that most top class trainers can get one ready first time, unless it's a definite known factor that they do take a run or two to get them ready. So I'd be ignoring that. I think this June, July, again, high summer is a thing here, and it's reflected in sort of the PRB numbers, which are very high at this time of year. So I might be inclined again to kind of, at least put another tick in the box for any Johnny Murtagh handicappers running in June and July. Again, we've got this weird anomaly where right-handed and straight tracks are fine, left-handed really underperform. I simply can't explain that, and if I can't explain it, it must be illogical to put it in. There is no reason to include that, in spite of what the numbers are saying. So if you can't write a sentence of logic to explain a rule in your system, it shouldn't be there. So this is a no for me. I'm mindful of it, but I'm going to ignore it. Likewise, flat versus undulating. These numbers, on quite big strike rates, 326. Sorry, quite big sample sizes. 326 runners here and 241 here, and the win percents are much different, and the each way percents are much different, and the percentage of rivals beaten are much different. But I simply cannot explain why Murtagh handicappers would struggle on a flat track. I've got no idea. So because I can't explain it, I cannot use that as a rule, because I don't know what the reason is. So in the end, all I've really got, and remember that that the Murtagh system, is profitable already, so we don't need to be mucking about with this much. It's not broken. We're not going to try to fix it. But I did quite like the quicker ground and the high summer elements, so I'm going to include those on Query Tool, which I may have already done here. June and July, so I've put that in there, and I haven't got a going one in there. I have got a pace one. Let me just quickly undo the pace one. So I'm just going to change that back. And then in the going, race going, I'm going to go from not that anybody races on hard officially anymore, and yielding. In fact, I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to do good, even though yielding was profitable. I think that's just a bit too convenient. So I'm going to go with good or quicker and generate that report there. And we can see, let's put that most recent early, so we can see the first year when Johnny was establishing himself, not great. And then thereafter, pretty fine most of the way. This 2019 was obviously frustrating, but look, a 5.5% win rate and a 50% each way strike rate. Only 2 winners from 36, but 18 placed. Clearly just super unlucky there. If these runs happen, they're deeply frustrating, but there is nothing wrong with the approach there. Anybody following them just wasn't getting paid out at the time. So that's fine. The other thing that I had put on here, and I think it's probably material with most trainers, just because horses that race prominently have such an edge. And we can see here what I've done is I've ordered by pace score, and we can see that those that led, which is a score of 4, have done very well. And in strike rate terms, those that have raced prominently also have less well in profitability, although again we're probably north of break even at exchange starting price here. Again, this is not a straitjacket. It's an approach, and there are a number of things that could be inferred here. You might choose to ignore the going. You might choose to ignore the pace. I'm actually going to ignore the pace in this one, and take going out as well, I think, just so that we can use that kind of wider lens. If we just do that, you can see that, like this is not really a system that needs those extra variables. If we just said Johnny Murtagh in high summer, or in early summer maybe, in Irish flat handicaps, that's it. This pace from 1 to 4 is basically all of it. Just put that on 0, and then that will disappear, I think. Yeah. So it's a really simple approach, and if we sort it by year, need dates, sort by year, just click on that radio button to sort by year, and we can look at that, and we can see that again, this formative year was not great while Johnny was figuring it all out, but thereafter this is at starting price again, remember, so it's a pretty much unbroken success story with these reversals at starting price would have been very close to break even at exchange prices, and this is another angle with which to go to war. So G1 Johnny handicap markup, and that's going to be in my system, and again it's based on months, so when it's June these will start to feature on my race card. Of course, it's the coolest thing about this is that these kind of angles appear exclusively and specifically in your race card, not in anybody else's. So you are creating knowledge for your own consumption that very few other people have access to, and in almost all cases won't have saved it in exactly the same format that you have. So that's it. That's profiling. It's great fun to do. Obviously you can do this with sires and with jockeys as well, and if you've got a horse with a large number of runs, let's say, well, at least I guess 25 or more exposed handicappers we're really talking about here. If you've got a horse like that, then you can probably do some profiling on an individual horse as well. There's lots of ways to play around with this, and I hope that you'll take some time to do that. It's Matt Pitonio saying thank you very much for watching this latest edition of gold nuggets. I hope your punting's going well. Difficult time this time of year. It'll soon settle down. And I'll speak to you again soon. Bye for now.